what is climate change? So we've already heard our Honourable Mayor touch on it, the Honourable Paul Fletcher as well, the MP, and I think that most of us have a pretty good idea that things are changing, but I just wonder, how well do we understand it? It's a really complex phenomenon, and it's really worthwhile trying to just get the basics right, because it'll help us connect the dots when we make decisions about how we want to live our lives and what we want to leave behind for our children and their children. So as I continue to discover when I have conversations about climate change, it's not really well understood. So I thought I'd just take you through sort of the highlights or the main concepts. So climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. So that usually refers to 30 years or more. So that's the main difference between the weather and climate. So the weather is short-term conditions of the atmosphere being experienced at any given moment. Now, the shifts that we are starting to see, they are natural up until a certain point, up until the Industrial Revolution. They were natural. So, and they were caused by changes in the sun's activity, large volcanic eruptions. Up until the 1800s, our planet was able to deal with that. Now, I am a hopeless nerd, a science nerd, and so I couldn't help but include this diagram. Now, you guys, if you're interested, you can all get a copy of the slides if you contact council, or you can contact me directly. I'll be more than happy to give these slides to you. And so let's just be clear. Climate change started to happen as a result of burning fossil fuels, pure and simple. And it's like setting up a blanket around the earth, okay? So if you're wearing too much clothes, you sort of overheat, don't you? So that's what's happening to the earth. Without going into all the chemistry of it, which is a shame because I'm a physical chemist as well as a coaching psychology practitioner. This is, this heating, it's caused by greenhouse gas emissions being trapped. And they are predominantly due to carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. But I'm not going to go into what generates what. But suffice it to say that energy, industry, transport, buildings, agriculture, and land use are among the main sectors causing greenhouse gases. Now, it doesn't stop there. It's not just about global warming. That's only the beginning of the story, really. Because the Earth is a system, everything is connected. And so changes in one area can influence changes in all other areas and disrupt the ecosystem that we've come to love. And so the consequences of climate change now include intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, rising sea levels, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. Now, I won't apologise for sharing this information with you and these images, because it is important that we are aware of what is happening around the world. As the Honourable Paul Raddick and our Ku-ring-gai Mayor mentioned, we are privileged. We live in a very privileged area. So it's unlikely that we will experience any sort of severe consequences yet. They're coming, though, if we don't act fast. So, but sadly, there are a lot of vulnerable people around the world. This image in particular is very important to me because it's from a little island in the Caribbean called Puerto Rico, and that's where I was born and where I lived until the age of 15. And my two elderly aunts had to be evacuated during one of the most horrific hurricanes, Hurricane Maria, which devastated the island. So not only are we seeing floods, but we're also seeing droughts, and they're putting not just people at risk, but our food supply. So in the future, we're going to start seeing climate refugees, and that's something that the world and world leaders are definitely talking about at the moment, especially as the COP28 meeting is just around the corner in November, December. Now, here in Australia, you can find out more about the state of the climate by going to the CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology website. They issue a State of the Climate report every year, and this is from the 2022 report. And I won't go through the numbers, but suffice it to say that we are seeing drastic changes in our lifestyles, and we need to find ways to not just mitigate those changes but also adapt. So I've been talking for 5 minutes or so, and judging by the number of people leaving, it's very depressing. And so, but I'm hoping to sort of take you through the journey of those uncomfortable emotions that would have been invoked by looking at those images, and the things that we can do to become more optimistic and to be activated to action. So, how many of you here have heard of the term eco-anxiety? Climate anxiety. And that's a very real thing. And it's a result of watching the news every day and seeing fresh images and headlines about climate-related disasters. We are growing increasingly anxious about the state of our planet. And I just want to ask, what do you think is the main emotion that we feel when we look at those images? Anybody wants to volunteer? I'm looking at my son.
Hopeless.
We can feel hopeless, yeah? Before that, what happens? What is the automatic emotion that we all feel? It's fear. It's fear. And fear is the brain's response to a perceived threat. Now, those of us who prefer to not look at those images because they're uncomfortable and we don't really want to know about any of that, they dissociate, if you like, and that's, psychologists, we've been studying what's been happening around the world and why we've been a little bit tardy to act. And that's also a self-protection mechanism. So a lot of us just didn't want to know. So it's all about being human, really. Something that I really would love you to take away with you, if there is one message, is that climate change and health are inextricably linked. They are linked. And when I talk about health, I'm talking about physical and mental health. Really, it's all one thing, health. Now, nothing can substitute the assistance of professional healthcare. I said that the other way around. Healthcare professionals. So, if needed, we of course have to go to our GP or contact a mental health professional. But before we get there, and the key to not getting to that point is to really acknowledge our emotions about climate change and about the climate crisis. They are normal and they are valid. Now, this is the climate emotions wheel that we use in a lot of organisational development work. I'm a leadership coach and a team coach, and so I work with large organisations, and depending on where they are on the journey, I will help them go along and interpret what it is that the organisation is feeling, what the culture is telling us, and then where they want to get to. And it all begins with our emotions. Now, I know that it's a cultural thing, and some cultures are very comfortable talking about emotions, and others are not so much. So we are mindful of that, and we are very gentle and very respectful of that. We don't force anyone. It's about just helping people really connect with their emotions, with what they're feeling. How do we then manage and build our resilience so that we don't end up getting in trouble mentally and emotionally? These are evidence-based tips or tools. I have a lot of clients who love the analogy of a toolkit. And I say, okay, let's have a look at all the tools available to us, and let's try them and see which ones fit you, which ones work best for you. But what is always essential is the first step is to validate our climate emotions as being normal and valid. I don't have time to... How much time do I have left? Yeah, great. So I will touch on a few of them. One of my favourite and the easiest one, the one I can take with me everywhere because we breathe to be alive, is use your breath. So whenever you start to feel any kind of fear, discomfort, use your breath, slow it down. Now, we do a lot of mindfulness training for executives, but that is a sort of a different practice, and it's a little bit more organised. But you can start with something as simple as your breath. Monitor the news that you consume, and by monitor I mean manage it. Okay, be intentional about what you're watching, and who the sources are. So too much of the bad news can really have a detrimental impact on our mental health. And that's why it's so important to gravitate towards inspirational stories, and they are everywhere. We have so much happening, not just in our community, but all around us. In Australia, we are not necessarily leading the way, but we're certainly punching above our weight. We really are, particularly our scientists, our climate scientists. Get involved in arts, creative arts. That has a very therapeutic effect. Connect to other people. And when I say connect, I'm not talking about just talking to people. I'm also talking about being involved with your community, with your family, with friends. Engage in meaningful conversations about the climate. I think we've learned that we've kind of run out of time. We can't just tippy-toe around it. I heard something from a colleague, another volunteer, who said that she really admired those in the volunteering group who were very diplomatic. I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them because I basically immediately get to the point and I say, what are you feeling? What is really coming up for you? I can see when somebody is trying to avoid. And when I say I'm talking about anybody trained in psychology. So connect and really acknowledge and have that courage to have those difficult conversations. To nurture hope and optimism, you need to be very intentional about your positivity. And so we run workshops, and this is going to happen next year. We'll be running some workshops through council. How do you create positive emotions? Because we really do need not just a balance of positive and negative. We need more positive than negative in order to stay mentally healthy. So look for those positive activities, things that make your heart sing and that are environmentally friendly, of course. And make nature your friend. It is the cheapest intervention and the cheapest medicine. And in fact, in Europe, a lot of doctors are prescribing nature walks, bush walks, or forest bathing, as they call it. And that is to spend time in the forest. And I think that's fantastic. We're surrounded by beautiful, beautiful trees and nature here in Ku-ring-gai and Hornsby and our surrounding suburbs in the North Shore. So let's make use of that. But let's not damage it. And the last one is learn and act. And that one, I thought I'd just, go a little bit deeper because to learn is something that we're very strapped for time nowadays. We are so busy and we all want to be experts in our fields. We all want to get promotions. We want to be paid more. And so we're working so hard and we don't necessarily make the time to understand what's going on around us. So if you can, learn more about climate change, adaptation, justice issues in our community and beyond. Know what matters to you, your values, and that is, the secret sauce, if you like, in positive psychology. When you identify your values, and you learn to leverage them, that just gives you free motivation to keep going and going and going. And find meaningful ways to use your strengths to address the climate crisis. And engage constructively. So take action constructively, which is very empowering. And it means taking care of ourselves and of others. I know I've run out of time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because this is essential. If we're not well emotionally and mentally, we won't be able to do the good work. We just won't be able to. So please lend me a few seconds here. And so thank you so much for your time. I think I skipped over.
I think you said you've got some resources here, and anybody who's interested in the talk, Dr. Ruby Campbell will provide you with slides.
So these are the resources that I put together. It's a brief list, but it's very rich, and they are all evidence-based. So thank you so much for your attention, and
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ruby Campbell.